Villa of Hope is here to help. Our Monroe County Department of Public Health is working diligently to reduce the chances of spreading the COVID-19 virus, and it's important we all follow those recommendations. That does not mean you cannot reach out for help. The Villa is here. We have people ready to take your call and get you the help you need. Whether you need general counseling, family support, MAT, or a compassionate ear, we are here. Call 1-833-993-HOPE.
You're listening to Villa of Hope Radio on the WYSL stations.
All right, well, welcome back, everybody. You're listening to the Villa of Hope Radio show on WYSL. And at this point, we would like to welcome Stephanie Dawson and Aimee Fedele. They are part of our prevention education program, and they're going to talk a little bit about the importance of prevention and how it can prevent trauma, which then can lead into some of the other pieces that we talked about earlier today. So welcome. So happy you're here today. Thank you so much.
We're excited to be here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can you tell us a little bit about what is prevention? What do you do? And what does it look like? Why is it important?
Great question. And obviously we think it's important because we absolutely love our job. We love what we do. And prevention, the real big role or the mission is to provide education, support, and resources for the community. So as Villa staff, this is what we get to do when we go out into the community. And what we're really focusing on is reducing underage drinking or misuse of alcohol. Also, we're focusing on the abuse of illegal drugs, and we also address problem gambling. So we work from kindergarten all the way up through college, and we know that we see through the data that prevention at young ages works. We know that teaching them and being able to give them that knowledge and that support and the community as well helps in the long run. So that's why we know it's important. And we see every day personally the kids that we touch and the differences.
Great. And so how do you go about, I guess, educating on prevention? Like what is your method, and how do you know it's effective?
So we use evidence-based programs, and for our drug prevention, we use the Too Good for Drugs program. And as evidence shows, there is an increase in knowledge. So we always offer pre- and post-assessments for students to take. And that way we can calculate that there is some knowledge, some form of gaining the knowledge that we're sharing with them.
So just to go back a little bit, evidence-based programming means that it has been researched, it's been shown to help, and it is specific to the age group that we're looking at. And also in prevention, one of the unique things that we do is we do what's called a needs assessment. So we look at our local community and we say, based on the trends, based on the data, we use different surveys and say, what's going on in our community, what's the need, and what can we do to go in and address that? And so every year at the Villa, on the prevention program, we do a work plan for our upcoming year. We look at our community and say, what's happening in Greece, what's happening in Hilton, what are the trends? Like we know over the last couple of years, vaping has had a huge rise. We know that kids are using younger and younger. We know that in middle school is when the age that kids first experiment. We also know that anxiety is big with kids right now. We focus on mental health and we focus on self-esteem and safety issues. So looking at all that data helps us drive what we're going to do. So evidence-based programming is very important in the community, and based on our job and our grant through the state, we make sure that we use programs that we know are going to give us outcomes. And so that's where those surveys come in, is that we're able to look at the providers that we go to, like Greece School and other communities, and say, here's some data to show you what we've been doing. We also, in our work with the kids, have made referrals with every school or community partner that we work with. If there's a family or a kid that we know through our prevention program needs support or services, we hook them up, whether it's through the Villa or some other resource in the community. We're kind of a conduit to help people get services.
Great. So if I'm hearing this correctly, with the age of the students that you work with, you're working with kids in school.
Correct.
So this has probably been a really exciting time for you guys, right?
It's been different. It's been challenging.
Luckily, we are very creative.
We are.
On how to get our services out there and flexible.
And do you want to tell them how we've had to be this year? Because you've been integral in that part.
Yeah, so during the pandemic, we have become Zoom professionals, recording videos, educational videos that we still provide to the schools. So they are still able to get our education, our programming. Some of the schools have allowed us to come in, so we've been able to finish up in person, which is nice.
We've come up with Jeopardy games. We try to, because we know that we work with a population that is young kids. We also work in colleges, and we fit our programs to that. But we know that young kids like to learn in a fun way. So we do a lot of games. We do Jeopardy games. We keep it active for them. So in the pandemic, we found a lot of ways to be creative and kind of reach them where they are. Luckily, Greece and Churchville and other schools, Rush Henrietta, have allowed us to come in person, and that's been wonderful to still be able to do that. So, and along with evidence-based, Amy and I also make up our own programs that are non-evidence-based programs that we can go in. Say a school says to us, I have a percentage of kids that are really struggling with anger, or they're struggling with COA or child of an alcoholic issues. We can go in and do some support and education. So we look at the community. We also have an evidence-based program that's an active parenting. So we can provide support to the parents in our community that are struggling with kids that have behavior issues or substance issues. So there's a lot of ways that we look at the need of the community and support that. And as Villa of Hope employees, we've been nothing but supported by the Villa to go out and find new programs and do our best.
Well, that's great to hear, and I know how hard that can probably be, in a pandemic where every school has a little bit of a different plan, different access, and the kids are probably facing some different challenges in their own lives. So can you tell us a little bit about how are you guys able to stay so flexible when you have to deliver a certain type of programming across so many different variables?
That's a great question. And the Villa of Hope has had prevention services for well over 20 years. I've been doing it for the last 15. Amy's been with me for 3 or 4 years. So we've made some wonderful connections in the community. Having those connections with those teachers where we've been in those classrooms providing these services, they go the extra mile to work with us. They'll include us in their Zooms in the classroom. So very creative ways that we've been able to work with these partnerships that we've developed to be able to make sure these kids are still getting programming. And we know that these kids are lacking social pieces right now in their life. Mm-hmm. So the teachers know that. They know they need the extra support, and they'll show our videos, they'll have us in Zoom. They know it's important, they believe it's important, so they're creative right along with us.
Great. And so are you seeing different needs from the kids and the teachers because of what's happening with, so many different things are happening in our community right now. We've got the pandemic, we've got racial injustice, we've got everything that was going on with the election that has now been settled, but there was so much going on. Like, how has that affected the kids and what they need from your program?
Well, we've really talked about how to manage our emotions, and we go over making safety plans and making sure they understand how to take care of themselves. We touch on self-care. Coming up with healthy coping skills is a big priority, especially in this year. A lot of kids are talking about stress, depression, loneliness. That isolation is a big one for a lot of people. But when kids are sharing this, we give them the tools and come up with a safety plan for them.
Mm-hmm. We also, in the community and with the clients that we serve, we have to look at what risk and protective factors they deal with. So basically that means, what are their protective factors in their life? And this is especially fit to prevention. What are the things going good in their lives? They have good connections in school. They have good family connections. Social. They have connection. They have friendships. So, and some risk factors would be maybe they live in poverty. They're living not with family members. They are having academic struggles. There's use in the home. So we have to look at those and how they're affecting kids. Throw the pandemic in there, and you're adding totally different risk factors. Yeah. They're home all day by themselves. They're isolated a lot more. They're on their devices a lot more. So we're finding that we really have to address that. more than we've ever had to. Really looking at kids that are on their phone 20 hours a day, 17 hours a day, missing that connection. So we are definitely addressing that with our programming, with the way we're reaching out to schools, looking for kids that we're noticing when we go in that are struggling a little bit. We make a lot of recommendation to the school counselors to say, please follow up. Please make sure that this kid gets services, or we work directly with them to get them services. So definitely a shift in that this year. We've seen more risk factors than we're used to seeing.
Okay, so you're not only preventing future trauma, you're also able to identify and activate help for youth who are experiencing it now.
Correct.
Yes. So that's fantastic to know that there's that extra set of eyes, right, who's in there with the kids.
That's exactly it, Jerry Ann. So not only are we going in to provide the program, which we're hoping down the line is going to give them that education and that base that they need to fight kind of what we know is coming, the peer pressure and the trends that are showing us that kids are exposed to it, kids are using. But we're also trying to identify the kids right now that are struggling, that may have use in the home, that may have their own issues or dealing with somebody that they're struggling with. So that's always something we keep at the forefront of our mind when we're doing our programming. And we've had some situations where it's been pretty intense. Last year we had...
I've had 2 students during the time of making safety plans for our emotions at that time then express I've had suicide ideation as a 6th grader. Wow. They're 11, 12 years old, and it probably wouldn't have ever come up if we didn't have a discussion topic on feelings and how to take care of ourselves. So we were able to refer those 2 students and get help right away.
Oh, good.
For them.
Good. So that's a real positive, and that's not a topic that typically around the dinner table that young people are going to bring up to their parents, right? Like, so today, this is what I was thinking. That's not going to happen. So something like this really provides that door to open up and to start that conversation, to get the proper help so the whole family can engage at the same time.
Yes.
Which is just fantastic. Yes.
And surprisingly, we find that the kids were outsiders, so they tell us a lot, and our energy kind of bounces off one another, and they like having that kind of person that they can trust that's different from anyone else, that they can go to and say, here's what's going on. And we, at every time we're out in the community, we always say to kids, we're going to be talking about some tough stuff in here today. Please come to us after. We're always available to you. If there's anything you're struggling with, we're here to talk to you. And it's a message that gets out and that's been utilized many times. And we're happy for that.
That's great. It's just so good to know that the kids feel comfortable enough after starting the conversation in the classroom or whatever forum you're in to continue that and to have the courage to say, this is what I was feeling. Because as we know, that's something teenagers typically are not going to do. So that's really good to know. So thinking about that, right? So you're going in your front line right in the school, talking to kids. So how does that fit in? How does the prevention program fit in with other programs at the Villa? Because now if I'm a listener, I'm thinking to myself, well, if you do a great job, the Villa can go out of business, right? Wouldn't that would be the best unemployment check in the world, wouldn't it?
Correct. Correct. You're right.
So how does the work that you do fit in with what the Villa of Hope does?
So we provide services as well for our Villa population, but how it fits in is that overall wellness that we're looking for. Is anxiety and depression and drug abuse going to go away anytime soon? Sadly, no. But are we helping kids learn at a younger age to live a healthy life, to make good decisions, to know how to care for themselves? They're still going to have coping skills, or issues that are going to come up, but they're learning these basic coping skills. And so we're hoping that sends out the message that the Villa has is a healthier way of life, everything we have from Sanctuary. So will we go out of business? Probably not.
And they also know they bring that information home. A lot of people might not know of our services that we offer here at the Villa. So we do spend a good amount of time sharing what the Villa has to offer as well for family and youth.
Great.
So it's not just our program that we're talking about.
Exactly. Yeah. We hook a lot of people up to resources for mental health counseling, They might have questions and say, what can I do about this? My family needs help with this. And so we're constantly doing that. So that's a great background.
Good. Very good. Yeah, and it's just thinking about how many people are out in our community and how many people can reasonably be touched by any amount of, referrals from a doctor or a teacher or anything like that, that for kids to bring something home gives us the opportunity to share the message even further, engage parents and families together, which, one of the ultimate goals of the Villa is to keep families together so that they don't have to be separated for treatment, right?
Definitely, yeah.
Good. So what kind of impact then? So, if you, if you could kind of summarize up, like, what impact do you see from the work that you do throughout the year?
So going back to kind of what we talk about with evidence-based programming is we see from those pre and post tests, because that's really a hard copy way for us to look at what did they know when we first met them and what happened after our time together. Typically our programs run 8 to 10 weeks where we are with these students 30 to 40 times, or 30 to 40 minutes, a couple times a week. So we're able to see percentage and a base of knowledge of information they didn't know before we started, and then an increase. So that's one hard copy way we can look at it. The other thing is a connection that we make with them. We also tend to try to follow them and do booster programs. And so if we start at 6th grade, we'll try to see them in 7th and 8th. And that connection that they form, that relationship with us, a lot of times we'll connect them with services. So, and just that base knowledge of being able to talk about something. And I know, Amy, you said that self-care, which we start to implement in the kids, we're hoping is going to be lifelong. Well, when you look at Hilton, we've gone into Hilton School District and taught mental health and slowly changing the culture of that school. They do meditation daily in that school now. They do check-ins with each other, almost like sanctuary. They check in and ask their teacher, how are you doing today? How are you feeling? So we're seeing on a bigger scale changes. And that's what we can hope for.
Oh, that's fantastic. I love hearing that there's systemic change going on too. Not necessarily just, one youth at a time, but now you've got systems who are jumping on board with the ideas of this and putting into action. So that's awesome. So, well, I want to thank you guys so much for being a part of this today and for sharing the message, and the message that, Villa of Hope is, not just one place on Dewey Avenue. We're in the schools, we're in the communities. We are out there, and I truly appreciate the work that you do, and how many kids and families that you serve. So thank you so much for being here today. Thank you.
Awesome. We had a blast.
You.
Thanks so much, Jerry-Ann.
It was our pleasure.
You're listening to the Villa of Hope radio show on WYSL.
Villa of Hope is here for you. Adults, youth, parents, grandparents, no matter who you are, we are here to respond to you and make connections to the services you need right now. How that help looks may be different from before, but we are committed to making sure we are giving you our best while keeping everyone as safe as possible. Let us help rebuild your resilience. Call 1-877-584-HOPE. That's 1-833-993-HOPE.
You're listening to Villa of Hope Radio on the WYSL stations.
You're listening to the Villa of Hope radio show on WYSL. Join Villa of Hope next month to celebrate Black History Month, where we will be talking about some events not found in many history books, nationally and locally, and that have shaped the systemic racism we see today. Tune in again on Thursday, February 25th at 6:30 to the Villa of Hope radio show on WYSL.
Thanks for listening to Villa of Hope Radio on the WYSL stations. Find out more at villaofhope.org.